Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Steven and welcome back. Alright, so in this video I want to talk a little bit about Cynthia G and also defend Cynthia G from some criticism that she has received throughout her time on YouTube. As you guys probably know, Cynthia G's channel, her main channel at least, was shut down, possibly temporarily, possibly for good. Not sure. I've been hearing things that it might come back because she's a part of some network. I'm not sure though. But for the time being, at least, her channel has been disabled, thus shut down. So I and a lot of other YouTube users who support Cynthia G and the message that she, promotes, pretty much just put up videos about Cynthia G and saying, hey, her channel shut down, but here's a link to her other channel that you can subscribe to, right? But there was when I did that, I noticed that there was an influx of trolls, possibly primarily cave trolls, but nevertheless trolls. I really don't care so much about the cave trolls as I care about the legitimate, or at least seemingly legitimate criticism that some black people have of Cynthia G. Because oftentimes when I if I type, on occasion I'll type in Cynthia G's name into the YouTube search engine, and I'll see Cynthia G's channel, but I'll also see some response videos where people both black people and other groups of people, but I tend to concentrate more so on the black people. And I would see some response videos, and it's kind of in a negative tone, where it's they're kind of basically coming at Cynthia G. And it seems like people want to come at Cynthia G for stuff that's either petty or stuff that's made up. I've been noticing that, because I swear some of these dudes, especially these black dudes, they for some reason just swear that Cynthia G has just done swirled it up. For some reason even though Cynthia has gone on record plenty of times and said that she has never swirled, etc., 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 But let me get into addressing some of these criticisms that I see floating around, People say that Cynthia G, she wears weave and makeup, so she can't be pro-black, quote unquote pro-black. Even though pro-black is such a broad definition, and probably just depends on whoever you ask, really, because I don't think there is a set definition for pro-black, right? So Cynthia G herself has said that she doesn't really refer to herself as pro-black. She just quote unquote does her, right? And I'm sort of alone, me personally, not to make this about me, but me personally, I'm sort of alone that way, along those lines too, where it's I wouldn't necessarily be offended if someone called me pro-black. I wouldn't be offended by that, but I wouldn't necessarily refer to myself as pro-black, because people have so many different definitions, and it's oh, if if you're pro-black, well, you got to have natural hair, you got to be the darkest of the darkest black person, right? You got to talk a certain way, you got to have a certain attitude. It's so much. It's really, when it comes to people's definitions of pro-black, oftentimes it's from a superficial place. It's they're looking at the looks, and I know that looks do matter and looks are important. Let's be real. But people often they neglect to talk about the mentality, which is the most important, right? And also Cynthia's G hair, it's not like she's wearing some blonde weave, or and even if she was, she could still be pro-black, But also, people don't ever take into consideration that perhaps Cynthia G is working through her own internalized anti-blackness that many of us have, if not, I really want to say like just about everyone, one of us has some type of degree of anti-blackness in us. Some more than others, but nevertheless, it's like people don't give space for that though. They don't, provide a space for that. At least when it comes to Cynthia G, it's like, we all are working through anti-blackness in one way or another, right? And I've made videos, like a couple of videos about that, about the internalized anti-blackness that I have worked through and that I am working through, right? So yeah, it's like there's no space for that. It's like people, they don't take that into consideration. Maybe like perhaps maybe Cynthia G, like many other black women, have been made to feel like some type of a way about their natural hair texture, right? It's not like black men are promoting natural haired women in the little media platform that they have. Half the time they're not even promoting, brown skinned, dark skinned women in that little media platform that they have. I guess you know what I'm saying. The black men who do have some type of a platform to promote, right? So I think people who are saying that, I don't know, it seems a little petty. It's just like trying to just pick at, it's just something to pick at. It's like, well, we got to find something wrong with you, right? Okay. Another criticism that I've seen kind of thrown around here and there is that, Cynthia G, I guess she like quote unquote talks white. She has perhaps a vocal tone that is maybe more so like maybe Valley Girl-esque. Like, oh, you talk white, so you can't be pro-black. It's like, really? Really? Just because she ain't like, yo-yo-yoing it up and just, spitting the latest slang and stuff doesn't mean that she can't be down for her people, right? And I think that sort of digs into a deeper issue of like, what do we as black people kind of like consider black? Just because, it's like you have to talk a certain way to be black. It's like it's like her vocal tone or her talking white does not cancel out her blackness, right? As well, her wearing weave and makeup does not cancel out her blackness, right? To these white supremacists, they're not going to be like, oh, she talks white. She's just like us. Or rather, well, there's like, oh, she talks white. She's just like us. Like, no, it's just not going to be like that, Like, oh, that old negress is wearing weave and makeup. Oh, she's one of the good ones. Like, no. It's like, no, right? You see how, like, these cave bees, right? These cave dogs, right? You see how they doing it, these KKK folks, right? They ain't doing that, right? You see they ain't Donald Trump, right? They are not criticizing Donald Trump because he has a comb over, right? Like, oh, he ain't down for us, down for white supremacy. He got a comb over. He got to wear his natural hair, or either got to shave it off like a skinhead. Like, no, they're like, no, you up there repping for us, so we gonna support you, right? And also, like, Donald Trump is not even in the same tax bracket as those dudes, and they supporting him, and they think he down for them, even though he ain't. Another story for another day, right? Another criticism that I've heard is that, oh, she lives in a like white neighborhood, or she was like perhaps raised in a majority white environment, and okay. As far as being raised in an environment, you can't help the environment that you're raised in, because I'm pretty sure Cynthia G can't just come up to her parents and be like, hey, I want to move. I'm pretty sure it won't work like that, right? As far as her living in a majority white environment, okay, perhaps the environment that she lives is conducive to where she works, like where it's like very convenient to where she works. You know, perhaps there are certain amenities that are in this neighborhood that she would like to partake in. Um, Perhaps she is doing research for all we know. We don't know, right? You know, we really don't know. You know, so okay, she lives in a majority white neighborhood. It's like, can we think of something a little bit more than that though? And like, you think what you think she doing? You think she like going and like giving them like being an agent for them or something? Like, I don't know. That one seems like really petty. Like, oh, can't be pro-black. You live in a majority white neighborhood. Oh well. Hi. You know, perhaps honestly, she could feel. I don't know. I don't know Cynthia G personally, of course. I have never even spoken to her personally. Um, but perhaps she may feel out of place in you know, majority black setting at some point, right? Especially if you know she's dealing with these dudes on the internet that she's, you know, in her day-to-day life, these type of dudes who make her feel some type of way, like, oh, you know, you don't belong here, you know. And as well, there's women who participate in bashing Cynthia G too. There are, you know. um, so you know, I feel like I don't think that alone is enough to totally cancel out someone. You know, to just totally cancel someone from, you know, the quote unquote pro black category, or, you know, just, you know, being able to speak on black issues, etc., you know. Um, you know, perhaps ask her why she lives in a majority white neighborhood. If she does, you know, because people be, I swear, people be sometimes just making up things about Cynthia G. You know, that they don't provide any evidence, any sources, any receipts on, by the way. Like, for instance, let's get into this next one. Cynthia G was married to a white man. Where is the proof? Because if she was married, people said she was married for years, by the way, too. So I'm like, okay, could you produce a marriage certificate? Could you produce a marriage photo? Could you produce an invitation to their wedding? Like, where? Wait, like, where did you get this information from? Because I swear people just be making up things at this point. They're just like, oh, you know, she was married to a white man for over 10 years. Like, oh, sellout ass. Like, okay, let's say that that was true. I'm not saying that it is true, but let's, for the sake of this argument, right? Hypothetically speaking, let's just say that this is true. That Cynthia G was married to a white man for 10 years, right? Wouldn't she be a good expert, or, you know, a good person to ask when it comes to swirling? You know, wouldn't she have some, like, you know, insider insight on, you know, how white men, white supremacy, and white people, you know, work to uphold white supremacy and all that good stuff? Like, she seemed like she would be a good person to be speaking on why you shouldn't swirl, right? But I feel like I feel like that's at least half of the reason why people have an issue with her, because she is so strongly against swirling. And for some reason, a lot of black folk, especially black men, but, you know, there's some black women mixed up in there, are just determined to want to swirl with folks who oppress them and folks who benefit from their oppression, directly benefits from their oppression. Which, it seems like when you really think about it and look at it and analyze it, that does seem like really like a mental issue. Like, you know, just almost like fighting to, like, oh, you know, all white people ain't bad. You know, how they can kind of get into that whole argument. And I feel like that's a lot. I think at least half of the reason why, as far as at least black people are concerned. Other folks, I ain't concerned about them. This is about black folks and their criticisms. All right. But I feel like that's like at least half the reason why people have an issue with Cynthia G because she's so strongly against swirling, right? And some of these black folks, especially these black men, kind of think that you can both swirl and be down, and be swirling and be like pro-black, down for the cause and down for that, which I think I'm going to end up making a separate video addressing that, because that's like a whole nother topic in itself. And I'm probably going to use this Shannon Sharpe as somewhat of a starting point or a jumping off point, right? But long story short, is it possible? Yes. Should that be the aim? Should it be just so commonplace? No, it shouldn't. And also, I don't think that black people as a group or as a collective are emotionally mature enough to be just straight up pro-black in an interracial relationship. I think white people could be pro-white supremacy in an interracial relationship. I think they could do it much better than we could do it the other way around. We are, there's some differences between us. Let's be real, cultural differences, like socio-cultural differences between us, But yeah, I just don't know where the proof is on these allegations about Cynthia G being married to a white man for such a long time. I know that picture of her came out, but that picture was of her with her brother-in-law, or her former brother-in-law, because I think he ended up divorcing her sister. But people were going in on that picture and oh yeah, I knew she was, what they say, basically, she was riding white D, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And again, she spoke about it pretty much as soon as it ended up being a story, at least in our part of YouTube. She spoke about it and addressed it, but folks still want to come at and just it's like they just want this to be true for some reason so badly. I guess because they can be like, oh, you such a hypocrite. Because I think that's what they want to, oh, you such a hypocrite. Because, they probably swirling or want to swirl. And she's so steadfast against swirling. And goes in on black men and black women, but especially black men who swirl too. So perhaps feeling some type of a way about that, But a sidebar right quick, though. Do I personally think that Cynthia G may have some, perhaps, leanings towards white men? On some level, perhaps, just because in any situation, how we have, these white cave trolls who be so obsessed with black folks, right? And how they say, oh, it's a thin line between love and hate, right? So on that particular note, I kind of think so, because Cynthia G should be really going in and, be going in with the fervor and the passion, right, against these dudes, these white men especially, So, sometimes, when people kind of go in so strong about something and, speak on it continuously, you kind of think oh, they're almost obsessed with it, right? So on that particular note, perhaps she could. I'm not, I don't know for sure, but at this point, I don't think Cynthia G has actually swirled, and hopefully she doesn't swirl, just because if she did, it's oh, tomorrow I'm going to swirl, and it's just point blank evidence, folks would just be going crazy, and even folks who support her would probably feel some type of a way about it just because of her stance in it, But Cynthia G has said that, she swirl with anyone but white people and Asian people, right? So she did sort of kind of like give herself kind of like a way out, you know, just in case she may have to end up swirling because she can't find a black man, you know. So, you know, it's not that Cynthia G is like totally against swirling, you know, because I'm sure she understands that, you know, folks got to do what they got to do, right? But it's like I can understand her stance on it as far as like white people are concerned, because it's like we shouldn't be swirling with white people. You know, I can understand her reason with that. You know, she's made some good points about that. You know, it's like I don't think it's good for us, but also it sends the wrong message to white people too. You know, it sends a message that, hey, you know, no matter how you treat us, we'll still get down with you. And really, on like, I don't even know what type of note this is, but do white people as a collective even deserve some, you know, to the pleasures of a black person? You know, all that a black person can offer them. You know, you think they deserve to be able to, you know, carry a black seed or have them, you know, carry their white seed? You know, do you think they deserve to have, you know, the pleasures of BBC or the pleasures of BBA, Big Black Ass? You think they really deserve all that? They ain't really do enough to deserve that, right? And that's just a sidebar, though. But to bring it back to this topic, another rumor that I've seen floating around is that Cynthia G has a biracial son. And but she's like, that's her nephew. That's not her son, right? She has spoken about her sisters being swirlers. As well, she has spoken about, I think she has a brother who is a swirler too. She has a lot of swirlers in her family. Thus, she's going to probably have some biracial nieces and nephews, right? But people are saying like, oh, this is Cynthia G. They just be making up stuff, I swear. Like they want that to be true so bad, you know, so they can be like, oh, you so pro-black, but you got a biracial son. I swear, like, oh, you so pro-black, but you, you know, was riding white D for 10 years, you know, married to white men for 10 years, but you so pro-black. Like, I really think they want that to be true, but they just be pulling pictures here and there and just making up stuff, right? You know, and it's just like, can we at least talk about things that are at least factual? At least the weave and makeup is factual. At least, like, you know, living in a white neighborhood is perhaps factual, you know? But this other stuff, I don't even know if it's, I don't even think it's based in facts. It's just based in, like, perception, more or less. Like, what you want to perceive it to be, you know? So, yeah. Yeah. And to jump back to the weave and makeup thing for a minute, I heard somebody say like, oh, you know, that signifies that she adheres to the European standard of beauty, right? And that's the argument, like, oh, you know, you can't be pro-black, you adhere to the European standard of beauty, right? But how many of these dudes out here who be checking for women, right, be adhering to wanting the women that they, you know, checking for to adhere to the European standard of beauty, though, right? It's like some of these dudes out here be like, oh, if only black women just, you know, all black women went natural, that'd solve all the problems in the black community. You know, all the problems in the black community, just natural. You know, but that's like, while it would be, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it would be, let me put it like this. I think mentally that would be great, you know, for black women's mental health, right, and self-esteem. You know, I do think, as well as being embraced for going natural, right? Because they could go natural, but get like a whole bunch of flack for it. So that's not going to work. They need to be able to go natural and be embraced by black men, as well as just the black community in general, but especially black men. You know, that's why some black women kind of do hesitate to go natural, because it's like, well, am I going to be considered attractive to black men? Yeah, that's a legitimate concern, right? you know, and by the way, like, if all black women go natural, what are black men gonna be doing? Like, what they gonna be doing? Like, what do they like need to step up on? Like, you know what, the black men need to step up more, right? It's not like black men are perfect. Let's be real. Ain't none of us perfect, you know? But I feel like, I don't know, it's just, it's like, we kind of like arguing amongst ourselves, and I'm like, this isn't really getting us anywhere, right? It's just furthering the divide, right? We got to find some type of a meeting place, right? You know? But to sum it up, I think as far as like the black people are concerned and their criticism, I don't know. Some of yours is just too far off, too far gone. I'm kind of doing this for more so the people who at least seemingly have a legitimate criticism versus are just like trolling for YouTube views and whatnot. But I think that, try not to be so caught up in like just the superficialness, like, I guess, I don't know. I just feel like, let's just, let me get my words together. Do you have a problem with the message that Cynthia G is sending, or do you have a problem with how she looks, right? You think that she should look a certain way to send the message, Um, and also, do you believe the rumors about Cynthia G being married to a white man, having a biracial son? Or do you want to believe those rumors, right? Because those rumors have not been substantiated, as being true. I have not seen a marriage certificate produced. I have not seen a wedding photo produced. I have not even seen a invitation to the wedding produced. I have seen no proof of that. And as far as her having a biracial son, I have not seen any proof of that, other than people saying, "Oh, look at her with her like her being with her nephew and saying that that is her son." So you think she gonna be up here denying her son for what though? Like, you think what mom, especially a mom, gonna be denying their child? Like, oh, I don't have that ain't much. What mom does that? You know, what mom? I know some dads who do that. You're right. Let's be real. There's some dads who do that, but moms typically don't do that, right? And what mom be lying about the amount of children that they have? Dudes be lying about the amount of children that they have, or at least be trying to keep it on the low. It's just like, I don't know. It's like this is like I don't know, being in like the Twilight Zone or something, or like on some like crazy episode of some TV show, like Opposite Day or something. I don't know, like, what's up with this? Like, we're just making up stuff now. I don't know, but let me bring this video to a close. Thank you very much for watching. I know this was a bit of a longer video, so thank you very much for watching me and hearing me out and seeing what I had to say and hearing what I had to say too. Hopefully this might, bring some people around on Cynthia G, particularly some black people, right? This is mainly who I'm doing this for, black people who have legitimate criticisms, or at least seemingly legitimate criticisms of Cynthia G, Hopefully this could help, bring them around to giving Cynthia G a chance, and, not being so critical of her. Hopefully. Probably won't. But, still, I think it's a good video to address some things in, So, thanks a lot for watching. Adios and goodbye for now.